the World Carp Fishing Championship of 2026, which will be held in North Macedonia. Now I'm actually just leaving the venue now where I had my interview. I first wanted to, get to the venue, go through everything and see how everything played out before I did the intro of the video. So as you guys would have seen from the thumbnail and from my social media through the weeks, I had an interview today with Gilbert Foxcroft. Now Gilbert is a very well-known angler in South Africa. He's like a living legend, and then also very well known on the international stage, where he was part of the teams that on numerous occasions won the World Carp Fishing Championship. So yeah, he's a pretty seasoned angler when it comes to specimen angling, and then obviously the championship. But then first part of the day was he's currently busy with a masterclass session for the two of the SAF-BAF A team members. So where he's helping them and teaching them some tips and so on, and with the hopes of one day becoming protea anglers themselves. And then the nice guy he is, he invited me to join them on this session as well. And I must say, the stuff that he spoke about and the stuff that he highlighted and so on, it's stuff that I never would have thought about. So really, really insightful information that he gave, and it's really stuff that I would use in my angling going forward. So yeah, but otherwise, in the second part of the session then, or the episode rather, is on the interview with Gilbert. We dive into a little bit of where angling or specimen angling started for him, what it takes to become a protea angler, and then also information on the championship. Finding information on this championship it's really, really difficult. There's not a lot of information about it on the internet, about how it works exactly and so on, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do the interview with him, is to find out more on how does it actually work. And I must say, he answered all the questions and some more. So I'm going to leave you guys with then outtakes from the session we had, the information part or the masterclass, and then the second part is where we did the interview. So I hope you guys enjoy it. It was really, really insightful. So yeah, here we go. Here's the information, or rather episode 3. Okay, so we're finally at the interview stage of this video. So far, I must say I've learned a lot. Listening to what Gilbert has to teach the guys and what he tells them and stuff like that. So it's really something that I know, what I've heard and the tips you've given the guys, it's already something I know that I can use in my angling as well. So yeah, he has an immense amount of knowledge, and I think any person not paying attention to what you're saying and the tips you're giving, it's a duck on the right.
Yeah, it was a coot.
Yeah, so any person, I mean, if Gilbert gives advice and you don't use it, in Afrikaans het ons gesê jy kan 'n perd net tot by die water vat, maar jy kan hom nie maak drink nie. So we actually spoke about it earlier. Okay, but let's get into the question part of it. So let's take it right back to the beginning. Before the world titles, before the pressure of being a protea angler and so on, how did carp fishing enter your life?
Was actually a very strange situation. So I got hold of a Tight Lines magazine way back in 1990, and there was an article by Peter Bryant. Now, if you want to go back and research this, Raspberry Lakes, the bailiff at Raspberry Lakes in the mid-80s was a gentleman by the name of Peter Bryant. And there's actually a swim named after him called Bryant's Point. So you can find it today still. So Peter Bryant came to South Africa. He kind of immigrated, wanted to have live a more peaceful life. And he started as an estate agent. So he was doing his estate agent's business, and then he also started a boilie business. And he wrote an article, and it was fascinating, you know, seeing that you can put a bait on a hair away from the hook. So it just didn't make sense at that stage, because you're also used to doing bank angling. And so his telephone number was on the article. So I thought, you know what, this really interests me. And I called him, and he invited me for tea.
Tea.
Tea, yes. So he was a big tea drinker. And so he lived on a plot outside of Benoni. And so I went and visited him, and he showed me some stuff, and I got a pod from him, and I bought 2 Century Armalite rods, 12 foot, 2¼ pound. Now that's, you know, back in the day, you know, it's a rod this thin. You used to Coniflex rod that was this thick. So I really got into this thing, and he invited me to fish a session with him at Donaldson Top Lake. And he gave me some recipes so I could make my own boilies. And back in the day, you make a 2-egg mix, and then you roll the baits by hand. So that was it. You know, there wasn't rolling tables or anything. And I made 1 kilogram of boilies. Took me the whole week to make those boilies. And I went with him to Top Lake, and on my very first session, I had a 27 pounder, a 33 pounder, and a 39 pound 14-ounce common. And that just sealed it for me. From that day, I never looked back. And I just, you know, I used to get Carp World magazines from him. And so I used to borrow them, go to work, then ask very nicely, if I buy a ream of paper, can I please make photostat copies? So I made photostat copies of that. And actually last year, I threw away that file because the photostat copies started sticking together. And so it was wasted. So I chucked it all away. So that is where I learned, because there was, besides Peter, and when he passed away, there was no one else that you could actually rub shoulders with. Up until the time when I started, when I went to the Reduto World Cup, when I met Frank Warwick, you know, late in the 90s, Stevie Briggs, Simon Crowe, Rob Hughes, they all came to South Africa, and we fished together at Lasiri. But back in that at that time, you know, we only had the magazine, so you tie the rigs based on what they show you, and then by trial and error, you know, you make the rig longer, you make it shorter, you make the hair longer, you make it shorter, stuff like that.
And today's, I think, we spoiled, because I mean, if you want to learn something, you literally just go onto the internet, and there's going to be loads of videos that's going to show you the exact same thing.
100%.
So no, that's interesting, and it's all the where it started from, where there was actually nothing. Then you had to almost, yes, you had influence, but also you teach yourself by trial and error. That's very interesting.
So my first article in Tight Lines magazine, or a little write-up that I wrote, was in 1993. That was my first exposure to the written media for, you know, carp angling.
But even if you listen to a lot of the European guys that have YouTube channels as well, and the big guys and so on, they all still talk about the days of magazines.
Yes.
Where they had to rely on magazines to teach them and to find out about venues and places to fish and how to approach it and bait prep and stuff like that. So yeah, it's something else.
And from then, when I really got into it, for me that was, the passion was not just to catch fish, but also to be able to one day teach people.
Yes.
What I was unable to be taught.
Yeah.
I had to learn by trial and error. I made lots of mistakes. Did loads of things stupid and wrong.
Yeah.
And you get a clap because the fishing does teach you humility.
Yes.
and when it starts coming together, when those sort of things happen, and then when I see people today. And this is, for me, is kind of an upsetting situation. If you see the progress we made up to a point, and then all of a sudden it declined. A place like this where we're sitting now, yes. I mean, I've been fishing here for over 33 years. And when I came here at first, these jetties in front of us were beautifully leveled with railings on. There were tires on the sides because people used to park their boats there. There were boat houses here. There was a cafeteria on the opposite side. That is heartbreaking in a sense, because this place is, in my opinion, probably one of the best specimen venues in the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah, I think that's why it's, like you said, it's so popular. I recently only started fishing here last year, and already with the fish that I saw that came out during that time, it was just amazing. And that's why I said one of my goals for this year is I want to fish Donaldson Dam much more. It's not, I don't live far from here. It's an hour's drive, so this is something special, and I think that's why so many people fish it and why they try and look after it as well.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question was there a specific catch or session that made you realize this is just not just a hobby, and this is something you want to take seriously? I know you just mentioned about where it all started for you, but was it there or something else that made you think, I want to do this professionally?
Well, I would say probably that year after I caught my first Donaldson fish, being able to make my own baits and actually have success on it, and then progressing to a point where I could know exactly how the fish's patrol route were working, because I would catch fish this weekend in this area, but then I would move to another area and catch the fish that I didn't catch the previous time on that area. And then just by going through all of that and experiencing how I myself changed as an angler, and I mean, I was eating, living, breathing, eating carp angling, and for me the nice thing is 33 years later I'm doing it exactly like that. Okay, methods have changed, technology has changed, but it's just one of those things. And for me, the love of teaching people. Yeah. I mean, last year in June, I hosted Carp Clinic number 300.
Sure.
I'm already sitting on 307 clinics in 33 years. Yeah. So hopefully, and look, and I'm not hopefully, I know that I've made a difference in quite a number of anglers' lives. And it doesn't matter for me the brand, it doesn't matter the person, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're Indian, whether you're pink. I teach everyone. And for me, one of the biggest accomplishments was a good couple of years ago, I hosted a group of black anglers. And I spent an entire day showing them rigs and LED systems and all of those sort of things. And those guys today have a Facebook group called Soweto Carp Angling Enthusiasts.
I follow them, yes.
And they host their own competitions, and
they're very active.
And they are extremely active and extremely passionate.
Yeah.
And just a while ago, Sylvester said to me, it's one of those scenarios when if it wasn't for that significant introduction, they probably wouldn't have created a love for angling like they've done. And again, they use a multitude of different brands. So for me, teaching people, I want to teach them the love of carp angling and to help them with fishing ethically for carp. And I don't care what brand you use. If you use the brand I sell and the brand that I've used for donkeys of years, then brilliant. But if you don't, and you are a Nash fanatic or a Fox fanatic or whatever, that's fine. It's no problem. I've got brilliant, great friends that uses a multitude of other brands, and we talk carp angling.
Yes, that's the main thing. No, I like that, and it's all. That's why I do this as well. For me, it's about learning and being able to help other people as well. And it's at the end of the day, it's about the love of carp angling. That's what makes it so important for me. Yeah. So the next one then, before we dive into the competitive side of the interview, let's talk a little bit about all the different aspects of carp angling where you operate and play a role. So we know about the what did we just say? The sessions,
social sessions.
Social sessions and these masterclass sessions. I almost lost my words there. But in what other aspects do you play a role in carp angling? I know you've got your role at Korda, and if I'm correct, Daiwa, and so on.
Yes, I work for the Kingfisher.
Yes.
And I am a rep for the Kingfisher. So we are responsible for 54 international and local brands. So I'm a global brand ambassador for Daiwa, for Korda, for Mainline Baits, and for Delcom. And then obviously I sell all 7,800 line items that Kingfisher offers. So I've got over 232 tackle shops that I'm responsible for. So I travel a lot.
Yes.
I see a lot of people, and for me to be able to talk angling, but in particular carp angling with people is so rewarding.
Yeah.
So I'm involved in the competitive angling as a national coach. I'm a national coach for SAFBAF. So one of the functions this weekend, for instance, I've got 2 Gauteng North anglers in the SAFBAF A team that I'm assisting in getting them prepared and getting their skills levels uplifted, so that at the end of April they can participate in the SA Open.
Yes. And
hopefully do better than what they already did to achieve their SAFBAF A colours. Now, so that I do the clinics, I do shop days, and obviously I write articles, I do videos. I've represented the Kingfisher on Cape Net as part of a hier gaan ons alweer couple of seasons. And so wherever carp angling is, that's where I am.
Okay, and that's good to know. Okay, so the next section I want to go into now is becoming a protea angler, the journey. So I think that most anglers know that becoming a member of any country's national team it's not easy. And we've spoken now a bit about the immense amount of work that goes into this. Hard work, patience, endurance, to earn your spot on the team. So I want to know from you, what does it take to become a protea angler? And I actually want you to, if you don't mind, you told me the story about the hours that you put into to get your casting to where you want it. So what does it take? The work and hours and so on that you have to put in to become a protea angler?
Look, the big thing is you've got to make that decision that if you do something, you want to do it to the fullest. Now, and it's the same with an athlete that wants to, like a Mankies, that the Tour de France.
Yes.
It's a huge amount of sacrifice. The same with the Springbok rugby team. There's incredible amounts of training that you've got to do to get yourself to that level. So just to run you through, under normal circumstances, to become a protea angler, first of all, you need to belong to a club. Then you need to take part in league matches where a provincial trials is held, and then you get your chance to get into either a provincial A or a provincial B team. Then you go and participate at the SA National Championships, where if you get amongst the first 4 pegs in your sector. Now FIPS competitions work in 3 sectors. In South Africa, because of our political landscape, we adopted a policy where we have 4 sectors, an A, B, C, D sector. So you've got an angling pair of each province in each of the sectors. So you've got 4 angling pairs. Normally you've got 3 and a reserve pair. Here your reserve pair is actually also part of the angling process. So you've got to get amongst the first 4 to stand any chance of getting an invite to the national trials. Now the national trials, if you participate in the B division, then you only stand chance of getting SAFPAF B colors. If you participate in the A division, you get SAFPAF A colors, but you can also nominate to be part of the SAFPAF B team. And then once you've had your SAFPAF colors twice, you stand a chance of getting nominated for protea colors. Now, if you want to stand a chance of getting anywhere up into the top tier, you have to obviously prove yourself over a period of time. Now, SAFPAF has got a ranking system that is accumulated over a period of 4 years. 5 years, but your best 4 count. And that ultimately puts you into a sphere where you are either part of the protea group. So like for instance with 2027 coming up, there is a group of 8 pegs that are all in the running to become the protea team for 2027. But there's a protea inland and a protea outbound team. Now the protea outbound team, that is the team that participate in the FIPS championships. Your protea B team, for argument's sake, takes part in local competitions against foreign countries.
Okay.
So whether you're fishing against Israel or Macedonia or England or whatever, that is not a FIPS competition, but because you participate against a foreign country, those guys can earn their protea colors.
Okay.
Now, for me, like I said to you earlier on in 2010, it was really important for me and my peg mate Loki Levis to do as best we can.
Yeah.
And we knew that very, very accurate pinpoint casting would be key. So for me, during the 6 months leading up to the World Championships, I did 792 hours worth of casting.
That's a lot.
And so what I used to do is I used to cook a pot of maize and put it in a 17-liter bucket and take it to work with me with my spot rod, my distance sticks, and my marker float. So on my way from work, I stopped at Florida Lake, cast out my marker float, and then at that stage 150 meters was the benchmark. No one else in the world was achieving those distances at that stage, and we wanted to maintain that level of performance. So I would cast out my marker float and then attack that marker float with my spot rod, and I would finish that bucket of maize. I don't go home if the bucket of maize is not finished. That's Monday evening. I cook the next pot of maize for Tuesday, so forth. So Thursday evening was my last. Then over the weekend, 2 weekends a month, Loki and I used to go fishing, and we chose a venue at Rurikoppies Dam because you've got to cast far. We didn't use the boat. We only spommed our baits out, and we fished on top of it. And that whole training, and that was our way of doing it. There was no rule or internal memo that said you've got to do this. We wanted to do it, and today's time you've got to actually force anglers to participate in a high performance training session or whatever, and you've got to literally threaten them to, or not them, but some of them to participate and to attend it, and that for me is a bit sad, because when we had that opportunity, just the fact that you have that opportunity makes you just want to do more and do better, etc.
Yeah, and one thing you mentioned to me as well when we spoke over the phone, as you said in I think that World Cup you prepared now, you said you actually a few times you guys broke your marker floats because you were so accurate that you literally every time dropped the spom on the marker float.
In 2009 in France at Lac de Ubi, Loki and I broke 3 of our marker floats just because we were so accurate. Loki took the catapult and he was shooting out bait balls, and he hit the dart flight with a bait ball. He hit it the first time, shot it out again, hit it the second time, shot it out again, hit it the third time, and that was the end of the marker float. And then we did the same with a spom, and that is a level of satisfaction that you can't tell people out there how satisfying it is to be able to get to a world championship and have a whole group of media sitting behind you with long lenses trying to catch you out for not casting in your zone. And that was so satisfying that the guys eventually packed up and went to somewhere else because they couldn't fault us, and that was great.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think even if I take, for instance, my spomming now, I've only recently started last year, introducing spomming more into my session, and I know even if I cast 10 spoms out, if I get 5 of them on the spot, I'm like ecstatic. So I can just imagine cast after cast, 17 liters. I mean, getting that on the spot, that skill. It's not something you're just born with. It takes hard work.
And everything is hard work. If you want to become a great golfer, Ernie Els didn't become a great golfer because he had a great swing. Ernie Els started as a youngster and he hit thousands and thousands of golf balls, and that's how you become better and better and better. The same with a bodybuilder. Bodybuilder doesn't build a massive body just because he goes to the gym once a week. That is total dedication, and this is for me. This is my bodybuilding.
It's the same. I remember I read an article once of Bram van Straten that played for the box at one stage, and he said that when he does kicking practice, just for kicking at posts, he would average between 300 and 350 kicks a day. That's a hell of a lot of kicks. But he has to do it to be the best.
Now, when Johan Hopley and I went over to Croatia last year, we fished. We had a unique opportunity to fish Lake Zayaki, and we only had 2.5 days. In those 2.5 days, we went through 60 kilos of particles and 34 kilos of boilies by just spomming it out. And the satisfaction of catching all those monster fish was it's beyond anything that I can explain to people out there.
That's the one thing, but we're going to get to that later, that people don't understand about why we do this. It's a feeling that you can't explain. It's something you have to experience.
Yes.
Okay, but before we go on, I'm just going to check the camera again.
No problem.
Okay, so we're getting then into the part where this video is actually the series is focusing on, and that's the World Carp Fishing Championship. Now, I just want to go into South Africa's history, because I know currently I think it's just Croatia that's won it 6 times, and we second with 5 times that we have won it. So I want to get into that, because like I said, that's the whole reason about this video, or for the video series. I spoke to, when I did that interview with Jordan, speaking to him about it, and then Via here as well. It's just something really that I find so intriguing, because this is literally fishing against the best of the best. And I think that alone is, again, a huge achievement for someone to be able to fish on that stage. So quickly, like I said, South Africa won 5 times, Croatia 6.
But I've just mentioned.
Yes.
Of that 5 times, we won it 4 times in a row.
In a row, yes.
No other country managed that. Also, we hold 8 of the 9 available world records in carp angling.
Yeah.
It's only the biggest fish in carp angling that we don't have. We've got the lowest point scored in a world championships. That's 3 points. You can't better that, because a win in your sector gives you 1 point. So we had 3 ones. That's 3 points. Then when we went to France in 2009, the English captain was team manager, Mitch Smith. When we went for the registration, that's now, he saw us in 2008. This is now 2009. So his first words to us was, listen guys, this is Europe. South Africa was a home ground advantage. We give it to you, but this is Europe. You will never win in Europe. So what happens with never?
Yeah, never say
so
never.
Never say never. And we won that championships.
Yeah.
And we had 5 points. We had 2 1s and a 3. And the next country at 12 points. So we also have the biggest winning margin of any championship ever recorded.
Okay. But I've talked to people now mentioning this, I wonder if the other countries aren't sour, because trying to find information about this championship on social media or the internet is very difficult. So, but I also understand, I mean, while you're fishing there, the focus is all about the fishing. You don't really have time to document everything and so on. But yeah, but maybe they just sour, and that's why they don't want to share a lot of information.
Look, the thing is, there's the guys take it extremely seriously, which means that even you will notice that although this year is North Macedonia, it's a venue that hardly gets fished because it's in a nature reserve. Yes. It gets fed by mountain runoff, which means that you've got they don't really know exactly what is the amount of carp in the lake. There's lots of trout in the lake, so if you're going to be fishing zigs, you stand a chance of catching a fair amount of trout as well. Whereas in Spain you catch hybrids, So you catch those hybrid fish, which is bream and roach together, which is a weird looking fish. It looks almost like a karper in a weird way, but they are totally nuisance fish. You don't want to catch them. So that is weird, but you will always notice that the minute the next country's championships is announced, everything on social media goes hush. The guys don't record their sessions. They don't record their catches. It is like total secrecy, and that is how it is and this is how we also need to go about our fishing for Bloemhof Dam. We need to do exactly the same. 2027 is here in South Africa at Bloemhof. And please remember that all the viewers out there are more than welcome to come and view this spectacle.
Yes.
Because it really is an incredible event to see how anglers catch hundreds and hundreds of kilograms of fish in a 72-hour period. But what is important is that we must, as a country, stand together like the European countries, because they just don't give you any information, and they say it like that. They say, "We love you guys to bits, but please don't put us on the spot to ask for advice." And we've got to do it like the same.
Yeah, I think so as well. So I just want to quickly with those world champions that you won, I know you and Loki, you guys are well-known anglers now, but who was all the members of the team? Just a few names, the people that were part of the team that got you the championships.
In 2008, it was Loki and his dad. It was me and Ben Adams. It was GP Nel and Kobus van Lochenberg. And it was Andries Maria and Henny de Pree. Our team management was Johan van Heerden, who's the current president of SAFPAF, and Johan Donald. So that was the team. So I would say 3/4 of the team was involved in 2007 in Serbia, where we got a 4th place. 2008 we won the championships. 2009 the same team participated in France, and then our team reserves was Casper Labuschagne and now keep on forgetting his name, Dion. Now Lappies and Dion was two naughty buggers. Remember that, Lappies. But the rest of the team remained the same. 2010, I remember, and this is something that will stick with me forever, and that's why I mentioned Lappies, because Lappies was instrumental in 2010, because there was a big poster at the registration hall that said, "Who can stop South Africa win 3 in a row?" And Lappies took his permanent marker and he wrote, "No one." So that was something that sticks by me forever. So the 2010 team was Henny de Pree and Andries Maria, me and Loki. It was GP Nel and Logis. Lappies was again our team reserve. Then there were a number of people that was part of that group that I have to mention, and that's Dean Pelser, Christopher Pelser. Christopher was still a lightie. He was still at school. Then there were Jacques Dreyer. There were Lucas van Vieren. We had a really big team of people that was there to help us support, because we were fishing in 3 different lakes, and logistically it was really problematic. So we had to have people that could help with logistics, help with getting the kit to the pegs and getting the kit back. Now, back in those days, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013, we had to get our kit in Europe and back by way of an 88 carnet. Now, in those days, it cost us about on average about 140 to 150,000 rand to get our kit crated up, shipped overseas 6 weeks before due date. And in Serbia, we almost missed that deadline. We got our kit the day before the championship started. So that gives you very little time to prep and make sure that there's no damages or anything. Because remember, when a kit like that arrives in a foreign country, obviously you've got a wooden crate. So what they do is they drill holes in it, and then they put cameras in to check if there isn't any illegal stuff in there. And you know, they can, when they drill through it, if your rod holdall is there, they can go right in it, and then it's a total shambles. But in 2013, we decided we're going to keep our kit in Europe, and we had aluminium containers built, lightweight aluminium containers where we could put our kit in. The two containers together could be picked up with a forklift and put inside a big panel van. And in that way, and ever since, our kit has been in Europe. So it just travels from country to country to country. The last couple of years, it's been sitting in Croatia because Croatia is quite central. And we've got a very, Johan and the guys have got a great friendship with the hotel where it's stored. So it's under a roof, it's wrapped in plastic. No moisture can get to it, so it's totally
that's
safe.
Actually quite interesting. I mean, the extent that you guys need to go to get your kit there, and the fact that you say it's just lying there. No, that's funny. That's
So for a couple of years it was in Italy. But Italy ended up being a little bit problematic because you've got to travel all the way north in and then into Central Europe. So Croatia meant that it works out a little bit easier. So road transport, the guys at the hotel has got a forklift, so they can put the crates in. It can go to the next country, and then from there it goes back to the hotel where it gets packed away and everything.
Just don't mention the hotel name, because why I'm going to say this is on my very first video in this series, there was a guy, I assume he's Croatian, because I mentioned them in the first video, but I had, planned my videos. The first one's just introduction, and my second video would be on the past winners and so on. And he was very mad at me that I didn't mention Croatia's, their 6 wins in the first video. And I commented back and very polite and everything, because if he's watching, he might go and steal your kit.
No, I must say we've got incredible friends in Croatia. So there is a very big respect factor.
Yes.
South Africa is one of those countries where we make friends with everyone. We are friends with everyone because we show the necessary respect, and we get the necessary respect back. So, our Croatian friends, I'm very big friends with Gavoje. Gavoje is part of Quarter Croatia, but he's also him and his peg mate is probably one of the best anglers or pegs in World Carp angling. And so no, there's a massive mutual respect.
Oh, that's good to hear. So for the Croatian viewer that complained, you can see we've got good relationships. Leave the kids alone. Okay, so we're going to continue. We're still then on the World Championship. Now, one thing, you've mentioned some of the points now. So there's a lot of technical stuff that goes into this thing. So I've got a few questions here that if you can explain to us, how does it work? So team setup and peg mates, you've pretty much explained now where you've got your peg mates and so on, and you've spoken about the team setup and so on. What's the role then of the captain and the manager?
Right, so the manager is historically responsible for all your logistical arrangements.
Yes.
Your hotel accommodation, your meals, all those sort of things. your team captain is responsible to manage the game plan. Now, game plan is crucial. So once the team agrees upon a game plan, it is the responsibility of the captain to manage that game plan. Make sure that the guys are feeding when they say they're feeding, not feeding outside those times when they and if there is changes, that those changes are communicated with all the pegs. Now, the last couple of years in Europe, what made things a little bit difficult is the fact that you've got one lake where you've got two sectors, but 30 kilometers away is another lake. That's where the other sector is. So you can't have the captain splitting himself in two. So that is where the international rule allows for a second captain. So you've got two captains and one manager. So you've got one captain that can manage, for instance, two sectors, and one captain that can manage the others, and then they could swap around and do the same, but in different in different sectors. So your captain, together with your reserves and your SASAC members, are there also for monitoring what is happening on the bank.
Yeah.
Stupid things like, what is the distance or the approximate distance these guys that are catching fish are fishing at? Have a look at when they cast, when the lead hits the water, how long does it take for the rod tip to bounce back? So you know exactly. So it's 1, 2, 3. Okay. So your descent is normally a meter per second.
Yes.
So that gives you an approximate idea. Listen, these guys are fishing in 4 meters of water. We are in 3 meters of water. We're not catching and they're catching. So, find 4 meters and give it a bash. So there's always constant communication between your captain, reserves, and your SASAC members. But also, more importantly, is you are also there to monitor that other countries are not transgressing.
Yeah.
Because the minute there's transgressions, you've got to wave the red flag and say, listen, there's something happening here that is not supposed to be happening, because it's all about fairness.
Yeah.
And then also getting the guys, the making sure that the guys have got the right nutrition. Now remember, when you are set up in a camp, it's not a camp, it's called a box. So if you can take a square item, that is your imaginary box. So if I take this thing here and I put this here, this is your imaginary box.
Yeah.
So you are fishing inside this box. You cannot break that box with your rod. So you can't exceed the imaginary boundaries. So that's important. So your team captain makes sure that the anglers be reminded of the fact that they've got to stick within their parameters. Number one. Number two, also that they are hydrated, that they eat when they're supposed to eat, that they stay out of the sun, because the European autumns can be really, really hot.
Yeah.
I mean, Italy back in 2011, we started the competition when it was 43 degrees.
Yeah.
So you can very easily dehydrate. Then you also have the situation where only one of your captains can enter a camp at once. So you can't have the team manager and the captain entering the camp. So you also have to be cognizant of the fact that if there is your team captain sitting here, that the manager doesn't just walk in. So you've got to announce yourself. And your reserves are also not allowed to enter the camp. Your reserves can go onto the side boundaries and they can sit there and talk to the guys, but they're not allowed inside that that call it that no-go zone. So it's a very, very big infrastructure that you've got to manage. It's critical, because if you make a mistake, that can give you a yellow card. A yellow card stays on your team list for 3 years.
Sure.
So another yellow card means that you get a red card.
Yeah.
A red card means that you are banned from fishing for 3 years.
Sure.
So it really is a serious situation.
Yeah, and it's actually very, very technical. I mean, very technical. So I can imagine why you need someone that can actually manage the whole technical aspects of the peg mates, the guys that are angling, can just focus on fishing.
We had a situation in Romania in 2012. The rules are 200 kilograms of bait. So somewhere along the line, our team captain got the calculations wrong. So when our stuff was weighed at the pegs, we had 12 kilograms too much. So luckily it was weighed before it entered the camp, so we could put it aside.
Yeah.
We were not allowed to take it in. But if we had taken it in, that would have resulted in a yellow card.
Okay. One thing that, like I said, finding information on this championship is a bit difficult. But with the information and the research I did, the result cards, or the spreadsheets that I got with results and so on, it's about the point system, and it mentioned the penalties. So how does the point system and penalties work to determine the winner then? Because that's a bit confusing for me.
So remember that the FIPS rules was written in French, and then it got translated to Italian, and then it gets translated from French to English.
Yeah.
So there are little errors. So they talk about penalties, but in actual fact it works like golf. The lesser the points, the higher the points.
Okay.
In other words, the magic is 0. But you can't have 0 penalties.
Yeah.
So you can win your zone, that gives you 1 penalty point. But the worse you do, the higher the amount of points you get.
Okay.
So in other words, that's why we said that we won with the greatest points margin ever. We had 3 points. The next country had, for instance, 7 points.
Yeah.
In France in 2009 we had 5. The next country had 12.
Yeah.
So it gives you the positions in your different sectors combined, gives you a point, and that is how it works.
Okay, so so
it's not really penalties. You're not getting penalized, but it works the same as golf.
Yeah, because it was just a bit confusing for me. That's why I put the question in here, because it's spoke one set of information that I got would speak about points, and then something else would speak about penalties. So that was just confusing for me. So I understand now. So the lower the points you have,
the higher the
you are placed. Okay, perfect. Okay. So we're close to the end of the interview now. I've got 2 more parts left. So we've spoken about the previous championships and what the championship, the work and everything, and the technical aspect and so on. But looking ahead to 2026 this year, so I want to hear your thoughts a little bit. What excites you most about the upcoming events or the venue? About the fact that it's at Lake Marvovo in North Macedonia. About the venue. What's your feelings about the venue?
I think it's an incredible unknown. So, and because there's almost no information on it, I think the playing field is probably more level than anything else. Remember, North Macedonia is not part of the European Union, which means that getting baits in, you need a certificate and all sorts of stuff. So there's lots of hurdles but those hurdles are the same for everyone.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably going to be a more level playing field, and I think if the guys are able to go and practice, physically go and practice, they will get a better idea of what is at stake. Because you've got a runoff water from the mountains, you've got crystal clear waters. There are lots of obstructions. You could see that when the water level is low, there's that church.
Yes.
You've got lots of pinnacles and all sorts of stuff that can be seriously beneficial, but it can also be a big hurdle.
Yeah.
So I think zig fishing would probably play a big part in that game again. But it also depends on where the anglers end up. I personally think that the majority of the sectors will be on the one side of the dam, because it looks like it's really deep on the other side, and it's very rocky, and I don't think it's easy to get in there. So I think it's if ever we stood a chance of breaking through, this would probably be the time. And for me, the great thing about the team that is going now is the guys have taken it to heart that it's important to train harder. So they all do those kettlebell exercises. They are all losing weight. They're getting fitter, and the fitter the guys are, the more clearer their mental state would be, and it's now just a matter of getting the preparations right. But I think the final game plan can only be achieved when the guys actually go for a physical practice session.
Yeah, and actually you mentioned it now when you spoke about it earlier this morning. So the fact that these guys actually go under a strenuous training session, a gym session, and like you said, to strengthen their cores and to lose weight. Who thought that you had to lose weight to go fishing? But like we spoke this morning as well, and the amount of pressure that these guys are under, they have to be fit. I mean, 72 hours straight of fishing it's not easy,
especially in Europe, because where we are sitting now, I've got my vehicle next to me.
Yeah.
So I'm nice and comfortable.
It's comfortable, yeah.
But in Europe, you put a bivvy up, and you are exposed to the elements.
Yeah.
So you have got limited tackle. So you've got to look after your tackle. You can't be rough, because if you break a rod, that is it. That's your game done.
No spare rods.
So the anglers take their own rods with them, because there's no confidence booster better than your own kit that you can take with you. Now that goes with a significant amount of risk, because when you travel on an airline, you don't know how they look after your kit. And I mean, a set of rods and reels can be in excess of 45,000 rand. And if something breaks, you've got to purchase it there. That makes it even more expensive.
Yeah. So you've actually answered the next two questions. I'm not going to focus on that now, but about what South Africa needs to do to be competitive and maybe bring the championship home. And you've actually spoken about that now. But which country or countries do you think will be the toughest competition for this year in North Macedonia?
Obviously, the Macedonian team.
Yeah, it's home ground.
It's home ground, number one. They would have a much better understanding of the water and how to fish it. So definitely them, definitely the Croatians, definitely the Romanians. And that would be pretty much. Look, you can never write off the Hungarians. A good friend of ours, Polibanka, I've been fishing against him, or I used to fish against him from I think 2007. That's the first time.
Yeah.
So we've made so many friends over the years, and if the conditions are right, if the angling gods are with you, you can win from any peg. And I would like to believe that the South African team, if they focus their attention on the fitness, building the right game plan, and not veering off from that, then I think our guys can win it.
Okay, I hope they win it. I think if you're confident about it, and I know you part a big part in, like you said, the planning and so on as well. I think they do have a good chance, and also the fact that you mentioned that it's a fairly unknown venue. It doesn't get fished a lot. With some of the research I did, what I could find was under normal conditions, if you fish there, because it's a nature reserve, they're only allowed to fish during certain times of the year and the day as well.
They don't allow night fishing,
Yes.
which means that night fishing can be prolific.
Yeah, it can be very productive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's basically it that I wanted to know about the competition. I really thank you for that. I think a lot of it's more clear now and so on for me. And then I want to come back then now with a little bit more personal aspect, and that's the importance of carp fishing. So let's go away from the championship or anything. We all have our reasons for fishing. I'm talking about all forms of fishing. I think it doesn't matter if you're a fly fisherman, bass fisherman, or even as jy net gaan om barbers te vang. I mean, we all have our own reasons for fishing. And it's just something that pulls us towards the water's edge and make us come back over time after time, even when you blank. It's just, for me personally, if I blank, it's almost like it's okay, challenge is now on. I need to catch from this venue. Now for me, it's the unknown. Not knowing what will take my bait. When I go fishing, for me, the most exciting moment, yes, when that alarm goes off, I run and it's exciting and so on. But then the next part for me is to see, and it's a surprise element, it's the first time that carp breaks the water surface and I can actually see what's on the line. That's probably for me one of the most exciting aspects of carp fishing, is that unknown. So for you then, what would you say is your main reason for fishing, and what pulls you? But you just said over 300 clinics, you've been fishing for donkeys of years, like you mentioned. What keeps on pulling you back? You've been doing this for so long and you're still going.
First of all, it's a way of mental relaxation, being in nature and just absorbing it, away from stresses. Not that I experience stress, because working in the fishing industry, you would be stupid to think that it's stressful. It can be challenging, but definitely for me, this is who I am. And it's also part of your upbringing.
Yes.
And it's important that people listening to this, or elder people listening to this that's got children, get the kids away from the PlayStations and games and drugs and all of that stuff. This is where you grow up. This is where you learn to appreciate nature in which form that it gives, that it brings to you. And for me, if I get a take, whether I catch a 3 kilo fish or a 30 kilogram fish, it's a result.
Yeah.
And I keep on saying to people, if a guy says, I caught quite a few fish last weekend, but they were not big. I said, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because they could have been big. The fact that you caught fish meant that you did something right.
Yes.
Now it's just working at that to find maybe my bait wasn't correct for the size of the fish I was targeting. Stupid things, but for me, it's learning every time, because the fact that the fishing is slow could mean a couple of things. First of all, the conditions might not be right. I didn't check the app where we're sitting with regards to moon phases and stuff, because I normally, if I fish for myself, I fish the 3 days leading up to new moon, and I fish the 3 days leading up to full moon. And the weaning phases I don't worry about. So that's when I do bait prep, that's when I do rig preparations and stuff like that. That's when I clean my kit, etc., etc. So there's 2 phases of the moon that really, intrigues me, and especially when I get that what they call the perfect storm. The perfect storm is when you are in that same moon phase, you've got a sudden drop in air pressure, and the fish just shows themselves. Here we haven't seen anything show themselves. So there's definitely other factors at play why we are not catching here. Look, leek quarter fish, and it's on a short area. So I'm going to take my marker float out later on, and I'm going to work that 19-20 wrap area and see what is in front of me, because I don't want to poach there by him, because that's not ethical carp angling, and that's what we spoke about earlier on. So for me, being here is enough.
Yeah, that's good to hear. That really is. And like I said, everyone has their reasons and so on, but we always just keep on coming back, and it's for what reason it might even be. Everyone has its own reasons, and I respect that. I really, really respect that. Yeah. But Gilbert, thank you very much for sharing this information with me. It's a real privilege for me being able to join you this morning when you gave these guys the masterclass as well, and the tips and everything. And thank you for the invite for that. And then, giving the time. I know you've got a very busy schedule. Still giving off your time and giving back. I really appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a huge pleasure.
Yeah, and I do think you've answered a lot of my questions about the World Carp Fishing Championship and what you need to put in to become a Protea angler.
I think what you need to maybe do is, when the SA Open takes place at the end of April, to try and even if you're just there for one day, to experience on the bank what happens, because that would put a lot of things into perspective. And 2027, when it takes place here, to actually see the magnitude of this, because all the countries are gathering at Nelson Mandela Square for the Grand Parade and all of those sort of things. And to see, in excess of 30 countries with bank angling, feeder angling, bass angling, deep sea, rock and surf, carp angling, in the different aspects, because there's a ladies championship, there's a under 22, in all those facets there's hundreds of people.
But I spoke to Via as well. The idea was that by starting this, I want to keep on following this, maybe not always do a video series or whatever, but with the idea of next year when it's in South Africa, I want to do my best and to see in what way can I be there to actually document it, and just to see what I can, just the experience, and then document it as well, and so on. So I'm looking forward to that.
So by the way, I found a DVD at home from our 2010 World Championships that we won. So there's a whole lot of images and all sorts of stuff. So I'll pass it on to you, and you can go through it and have a look and see from the anglers that did not participate in the championships, that basically recorded how things happened, where it happened, and stuff
that
like
would
that.
be interesting to see.
That's really it was really nice to look back and see. It's like we've come such a long way.
No, that's really, really great. I would appreciate that, and I do think it's something. If I can find a DVD player now at home,
That's the other problem.
yeah.
That's the other problem.
But Gilbert, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it was fun talking to you, the whole experience and everything. So thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Good luck with the rest of your session here,
Thank you.
I know you're still going to teach these guys a few things.
Yeah,
so,
no, we've got a lot to do still.
yeah. And then for you guys at home that watch this video, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. For the guys in Croatia, see, we've spoken about Croatia a bit now, so I hope you guys are happy. We've given you the spotlight that you guys that you deserve. And yeah, let's see what happens next. The next plan of the video is, with the series rather, is to give you guys a little bit of information on the South African team. So I'm busy with a project with that. Virya is currently also helping me to get information and so on. And as soon as that's ready, I think that's going to be my next video. Okay, thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Till next time. See you.
Thank you.